Unit 1 looks like the unit you can skim. No cells dividing, no DNA unwinding, just water, carbon, and a few molecules with long, forgettable names.
Here's what that skim actually costs you. Almost every later unit on your exam quietly leans on something taught right here. And most students don't realize it until they're stuck on a question in April that has nothing to do with chemistry on the surface. By the end of this review, you'll have the entire unit rebuilt around 4 ideas you'll actually remember, instead of a list you crammed once and forgot. Chemistry of life makes up roughly 1/10 of your AP biology exam on its own, but its real weight is hidden. Enzyme questions in later units assume you already understand protein structure from here. Cell membrane questions assume you remember how lipids behave from here.
Even a photosynthesis or cellular respiration question later this year quietly assumes you remember that enzymes are proteins, built from the exact amino acid structure you're about to review. Skip this unit, and you're not just risking 10% of your score, you're risking the foundation that roughly half the course quietly stands on, 1 unit at a time.
Start with water, because almost every property that makes life possible traces back to one detail. Water is polar, meaning one end of the molecule carries a slightly negative charge and the other a slightly positive one. That imbalance lets water molecules form hydrogen bonds with each other, weak individually but powerful in enormous numbers.
Hydrogen bonding is exactly why water resists changing temperature quickly, which is part of why your own body can regulate its temperature. It's why water molecules stick to each other, called cohesion, and stick to other surfaces called adhesion, letting water climb up a plant's stem against gravity.
And it's why ice floats instead of sinking. Water molecules lock into a wider, less dense structure as they freeze, keeping a whole lake's worth of life alive underneath a frozen surface in winter instead of freezing solid from the bottom up. Almost every molecule you're about to review is built from the same short list of elements: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, sometimes shortened to CHNOPS. Carbon does most of the heavy lifting. It can form 4 separate bonds at once, which means it can branch, ring, and chain together into structures no other common element can match. That flexibility also means the exact same set of atoms can be arranged into different shapes, called isomers, that behave completely differently from one another. Which is exactly why carbon, not oxygen or nitrogen, ends up as the backbone of every macromolecule you'll study this unit. Every large biological molecule in this unit falls into one of 4 families: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. 3 of the 4 are true polymers, built by linking small repeating units called monomers into long chains, the way individual train cars link into one continuous train. The cell builds those chains through dehydration synthesis, joining 2 monomers together while literally removing a water molecule at the connection point. Break that chain back apart and the cell runs the reaction in reverse, called hydrolysis, adding a water molecule back in to split the bond apart. Build a polymer, lose water. Break one apart, add water back. That single pair of reactions is exactly what your own digestive system runs every time you eat, breaking carbohydrates and proteins from your food back down into monomers small enough for your cells to actually use. Carbohydrates are built from monomers called monosaccharides, simple sugars like glucose. Link 2 together and you get a disaccharide, like the sucrose in table sugar. Link hundreds or thousands together and you get a polysaccharide. Strung one way, that becomes starch and glycogen, dense, coiled energy storage in plants and animals. Strung a different way, the exact same glucose monomer becomes cellulose and chitin instead. Tough, straight structural fibers in plant cell walls and insect exoskeletons. Same basic building block, completely different job, depending entirely on how those chains are shaped and linked together. Lipids break the pattern. They're not true polymers at all, since they're not built from one repeating monomer, but they still matter enormously. Fats and oils store long-term energy far more densely than carbohydrates, and the fatty acid chains inside them come in 2 versions worth knowing. Saturated fats packed with straight chains that stack tightly and stay solid at room temperature, and unsaturated fats, with a kink in the chain from a double bond that keeps them liquid instead. And phospholipids, with a water-loving head and two water-fearing tails, are exactly what let cell membranes form and hold their shape in the first place. Proteins are built from amino acids, and this unit tests structure in layers. The exact order of amino acids is the primary structure. Local folding into coils and sheets is the secondary structure.
The overall three-dimensional shape one chain settles into is the tertiary structure, driven largely by how each amino acid side chain, called an R group, reacts to water, some hydrophilic and reaching outward, some hydrophobic and tucking inward. And when multiple folded chains join together, that's the quaternary structure.
Change the sequence at the very first layer, and every layer built on top of it can collapse, since a single wrong R group folding the wrong way can be enough to break an entire protein's function. Nucleic acids close out the unit, built from monomers called nucleotides, each one a sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogenous base. DNA carries deoxyribose sugar and pairs adenine with thymine, cytosine with guanine, almost always as a double strand, held together by the same hydrogen bonds you just reviewed with water. RNA carries ribose sugar instead, swaps in uracil for thymine, and usually stays single-stranded. Same basic monomer, two very different jobs. DNA for long-term storage, tucked safely away, and RNA for actually getting that information where it's needed. Here's a quick way to tell all four families apart on site if a test ever shows you a structure without labeling it. Carbohydrates are almost always just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, roughly in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio.
Lipids are mostly carbon and hydrogen, with very little oxygen by comparison. Proteins bring nitrogen into the mix. Nucleic acids bring both nitrogen and phosphorus. Spot the phosphorus, and you already know you're looking at a nucleic acid before you've read another word of the question.
Here's where most students lose points on this unit specifically. First, dehydration synthesis builds a bond and removes water. Students regularly flip this and say building a bond adds water instead.
Second, lipids get mistakenly grouped in as a true polymer alongside carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids, when they're structurally not one at all. Third, and this one's sneaky, students memorize that DNA is double-stranded and RNA is single-stranded, then forget that a nucleotide's individual sugar and base identity is what actually separates DNA from RNA chemically, not just the strand count.
And fourth, on a free response question, naming the correct macromolecule isn't enough by itself. You're usually expected to name its monomer too. And losing that second half of the answer is one of the most common ways students leave points on the table. None of this chemistry is assumed to appear from nowhere either. In 1952, chemists Stanley Miller and Miller-Urey built a sealed glass apparatus recreating what they believed early Earth's atmosphere looked like: water vapor, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen. Then ran a continuous electric spark through it to simulate lightning. Within about a week, that mixture had produced several actual amino acids, the same monomers proteins are built from today, formed from nothing but simple gases and electricity.
It remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence that life's basic chemistry could have assembled itself under the right early Earth conditions, entirely before any cell existed to build it on purpose.
Decades earlier, the chemist Linus Pauling had already mapped out exactly how atoms share and hold electrons unevenly. The concept of electronegativity that explains why water is polar in the first place.
Pauling's work earned him the 1954 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, and it's the reason you can trace every hydrogen bond in this unit back to one clear, measurable cause instead of a vague description you just have to accept.
So look back at that unit you thought you could skim. Water's polarity, carbon's 4 bonds and its endless shapes. 4 macromolecule families built and broken by the same 2 reactions. And nucleic acids carrying the code underneath all of it. Held together by hydrogen bonds you now actually understand. None of it was random chemistry taught for its own sake. It was the foundation for literally everything you're about to study for the rest of the year. And now it's a foundation you can actually stand on.